What's up, everybody? Today's video is why are RB Leipzig hated? My name is Greg. I'm an American living abroad in Spain, learning the beautiful game of football, one reaction at a time with your help. And today we have this video here brought to us by Football Drawn, and I will include a link in the description so you can go and show them some love. And this was actually referred to me by someone in the comments, so just curious to check it out and see what we got here. So let's go ahead and give it a shot.
You know, just 10 years ago, you'd be hard-pressed to know who RB Leipzig were. Any trace of European history? Nope, absolutely nothing. Try harder. Maybe an appearance in UEFA Cup here and there? Nope. What about Germany? Surely they must have been in the Bundesliga at some point, right? Nope. Never. Matter of fact, 10 years ago, they were just promoted from Germany's 5th division and were playing in the 4th.
That looks like Red Bull. I wonder if they were sponsored by Red Bull. I don't know.
Tier. But fast forward to this day, they're a German powerhouse and a very respectable club in Europe. But things haven't always been this way. In fact, before 2009, the club didn't even exist. That being said, RB Leipzig is not exactly considered a beautiful rags to riches story. No, very far from that. Matter of fact, a lot of people think that they bought their success, and they're simply just a product of corporate greed, rather than a true football.
So, I wonder if that's what the Red Bull is. The Red Bull came in and bought them and... Okay, let's see.
Club. But the question is, and they're simply just a product of corporate greed, rather than a true football club. But the question is, why are they hated? Did RB Leipzig buy their way to the top of German football? Well, stick around.
Are they hated? Is that a true statement? People out there? I mean, why is that? I mean, he's about to tell us, but just curious to know what you think, what your opinion is.
To find out, because we're gonna talk about a journey from the bottom of German football to the Bundesliga. Right, so RB Leipzig are far from the most liked German club in the country, and for a valid reason. A lot of people think that RB Leipzig simply used loopholes to get around the 50+1 rule in German football. Not too long ago, I made a video about how the 50+1 rule works in Germany. Alright, I'll give you a small recap. In a nutshell, the 50+1 rule says that club members must own at least 50% of the club shares plus one share. Hence,
okay. Club members must own 50% of the club shares plus one share. So that probably prevents corporations from coming in and owning the club, I'm thinking.
the name 50+1. At least 50% of the club shares plus one share. Hence the name 50+1. And by the way, when I say club members, I'm talking about actual club fans who pay a sum of money to be club members. And these members enjoy 51% voting majority when it comes to club decisions. The investing partners can make suggestions, but unless the fans get behind those decisions, nothing can happen. An example of this is how more than 150,000 club members of Borussia Dortmund can veto anything from ticket prices all the way to changes to the club's logo. So
that is crazy. I mean, that's a great idea, but they could be like, no, we don't want to pay more ticket prices. So we're not going to increase it. But then they could also thinking we need more revenue so they can attract better players. So they will increase the ticket prices. But I think that's just so interesting that they get power like that.
Dortmund can veto anything from ticket prices all the way to changes to the club's logo. So yeah, you can see how the 50+1 rule is the main reason behind the low ticket prices, full stadiums, and the traditions of the clubs being respected by those at the top. I gotta say, it's an interesting rule. Yeah, I know it has its flaws, but it's one of the aspects that I really appreciate in the German football. Alright, now let's get back to RB Leipzig, all the way back to its beginnings. Before RB Leipzig was purchased by a little known energy drink company called Red Bull, the club was known as Markranstadt. Yeah, don't make me say that again. And that's not even the full name. Anyway, the old name isn't really relevant here because guess what? Red Bull rebranded the living hell out of the club. They changed the name, the logo, the jersey, and gave them a lot of money to play with. To the point that they came from the 5th division all the way to 2nd place in Bundesliga just behind Bayern Munich. By the way,
Wow. Even I know that that's hard. From the 5th league, I think I heard him say, all the way to 2nd place in the Bundesliga. Wow.
Division all the way to 2nd place in Bundesliga, just behind Bayern Munich. By the way, that was in their first ever season in Bundesliga. Just imagine if Bayern didn't exist. These guys would have won it. Now let's take a look at what they've done here.
Yeah.
In just
That's funny. Just imagine if they didn't come in 2nd place. They would have been in 1st place. Or just imagine the 1st place team wasn't there. They would have won. Okay. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to be funny. It lost its luster, okay?
these guys would have won it. Now let's take a look at what they've done here. In just 8 years, they started from the bottom of German football, won 4 promotions, and finished second behind Bayern. That's quite impressive, regardless of what you think of them. And here's my favorite part of the takeover. Since they couldn't name the club after the company, they just named it Rasenballsport Leipzig, which literally means...
Oh. So I wonder... Oh, okay. So they couldn't name it Red Bull Leipzig. Interesting.
After the company, they just named it Rasenballsport Leipzig, which literally means grass ball sport. Yep, quite a weird name from the brilliant minds of Red Bull. Obviously, this was chosen because it was abbreviated as RB Leipzig, and they found a loophole in the 50+1 rule. And let me tell you something that's interesting. The club's marketing team seriously avoids using the full name in their promotional material. Instead, they just go for the Red Bulls or just simply RB. Alright, this is where things get even more fishy. Remember the 50+1 rule that we talked about earlier? Where Borussia Dortmund has over 150,000 members and Schalke has over 140,000, RB Leipzig had a grand total of, can you guess? 17.
What in the hell? Hold up.
1,000 members and Schalke has over 140,000. RB Leipzig had a grand total of, can you guess? 17 members.
Wow.
That's 7.
Wow.
And you want to know what the best part is? They all worked for the Red Bull company.
Wow.
So yeah, you can understand where the fan backlash comes from. But the question is, why are they hated by the other Bundesliga fans? Well, that's because everything they've done so far completely goes against what the 50+1 model was intended for. Now let's take a look at the other side of the coin. Leipzig's defenders point to the club's progressive football philosophy. Under director Ralf Rangnick, RB Leipzig deployed attractive football and invested mainly in young players not older than 24. For the young fans in the Leipzig area, watching the traditional big clubs like Dortmund and Bayern worrying about the new upstart is quite a new and exciting experience, one that they've never had before, at least not since the German reunification. So yeah, you can say that the Red Bull takeover added some new blood to a region that hasn't had a tough football club since decades. But
that's tough. I mean, because they want somebody to give their club some clout and credibility, or give their league clout by having a successful club in their league. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But you don't want it done like that, where somebody just comes in and buys their way to the top. I don't know. That's hard. I'm a Dodgers fan. And in America, the Dodgers baseball, they're like the villains right now because they spend the most money out of everybody. So I don't know. I kind of see what he's saying here.
Added some new blood to a region that hasn't had a tough football club since decades. By the way, I also made a video about how Chelsea's takeover affected them. Feel free to check that one out, but only after this one. But now, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Did RB Leipzig simply buy their success?
Yeah, let's talk.
Well, of course they did.
Okay. I was waiting for some grand explanation, but okay, that's good.
Simply buy their success? Well, of course they did. What do you think the answer was gonna be? That being said, it cannot be ignored that the club is very well run behind the scenes. And to be fair to them, they play a very energetic style of football. After all, you gotta give credit where it's due. But you also don't jump from the 5th division to Bundesliga in just 8 years without a massive financial advantage. Personally, as a fan of Italian football, I kinda grew up with the romance and the traditions of the beautiful game. So I can totally relate to the traditional culture of German football.
You're weird, but I like you. That's good.
Traditions of the beautiful game. So I can totally relate to the traditional culture of German football when it comes to the 50+1 rule. Honestly, my stance on RB Leipzig is that I neither hate or like them. I'm quite neutral to RB Leipzig, just like any other team. But I do find it quite bizarre that a club can go around the loopholes to the extent of RB Leipzig. I think the globalization of the sport makes it inevitable to have examples of the Red Bull Group or the City Group having satellite clubs around the world. I know that money runs the world, and you can't run a bankrupt organization purely on football merits. I just hope that certain traditions of football that we fell in love with don't get lost over time by those who run the sport. I'm football drawn.
Well, I mean, I don't know. That's a tough one. Because I see what I don't know. I guess it's an argument for both because it does bring a spotlight to the league to have this team that's doing amazing, but then it kind of undermines like what the core of what makes football great, and that's the passion of the fan and the grassroots organic development of the fan base and everything. So that's tough. I mean, I can kind of see, I guess, both sides sort of, but. All right, let's see what everybody else is saying. I know they're probably mad. Let me see. Okay. All right, this one here says, never liked Leipzig as a Dortmund fan. Ruins the 50+1 rule that is so special only in Germany. But sadly, football is being more and more of a commercial asset for investors rather than a sport. Yeah, I would agree with that. Oh, look at that. Great stuff. I can easily read that one. All right. The fans even once threw a bullhead on the pitch. What the hell? Oh, like in protest. I see. All right. Never knew Red Bull would in any way be linked to soccer. Great video. Looking forward to more awesome content. That was a good video. Thank you, Mr. Football Drawn. All right, everybody. Well, this was a good video. So I appreciate you being here with me today. And I will see you on the next video. Peace.